Welcome to Veterans One TV. I'm your host, Amy Scruggs. This show is for the veterans. This show is about the veterans, and this show is hopefully going to inspire you, our viewers, to support our veterans even better. We're going to talk about VA homeownership and how important that is, but we also have a very special, inspiring story that you do not want to miss. Make sure and follow in. We're about to get started right now. We have such a privilege here of meeting amazing veterans, sharing inspirational stories, and incredible people. But I have to say, this next interview is really something special and one that I've been looking forward to, and I probably will not forget the rest of my life, and I hope you're about to feel the same way. We talk about PTSD. We talk a lot about PTSD affecting the veterans that we have of the recent wars. But how often do we stop and look back and say, how far back does this go? Well, I have a special guest for you right now, Jack Gutman, who is a World War II veteran, who was there at Normandy, and he's going to share with us how that has impacted his life and some of his stories. And he has brought with him his wonderful daughter, Paula Shaw, who herself is a little mini celebrity. She's known here in San Diego and has her own radio show. It is a pleasure to have you both on.
Thank you so much. Amy. It's great being here.
Paula, you're very special to me. I've been on your show before, and you really help change a lot of lives through what you do in helping with healing, and you're very much experienced with PTSD, and here you have such a firsthand experience. Jack, an honor to meet you. Thank you for your service.
Nice to meet you too.
Why don't we start off, just tell us what branch you were in, when you served, and a little bit about your background with that.
Well, let's see, I joined the Navy in 1943. I was 17, about 17 and a half. I got my father to sign for me, and I told him that I was going to wind up having a nice bed to sleep in, 3 meals a day, and then I could send him some money, because we came from a large family, and that helped. I was getting $50 a month, and I sent back 25 to them and lived on the rest, so it was it. So I joined the Navy and did not wind up in with 3 meals a day and all that stuff. Wound up after training, with medical training and so forth, I wound up making the Normandy invasion on June 6, 1944. And I was attached to a hospital in England that we were setting it up for 4 months in advance. We didn't know what it was for. We knew it was something big. Turned out to be the Normandy invasion.
Wow. And
I, along with a few other people, was chosen, I don't think it was a gift, but they said, you know, you, and you. We went for some training, learning to climb down nets, making a landing on the beaches. It was all hush-hush. And we were not to say anything even to our shipmates at the hospital when we were back and forth after their certain amount of time of training. What it turned out to be, it was going to be, we were to assist the medical people from the Army that were going to hit the beach at Normandy. And we were told that we would just be coming in later in the day just to take care of any wounded on the beach, that it would not probably be pretty bad because we would be coming in late. The Army medical would take care of most of it. After what we saw there, we started off, it was going to be on June 5th, but the weather was so bad, so it turned out to be June 6th. And guys were seasick and everything, and it was pretty bad. When we came in, because it started about 6:30, this is Normandy I'm talking about, because I was also in Okinawa.
Which we'll touch on, because that's incredible.
Right. Normandy started about 6:30 in the morning when they started the shelling, and then we heard the planes going over, and we assumed it was going to be a cakewalk, because normally the LCVPs, which are the landing craft, they carry about 30, almost 40 people. And they go right up to the land, the ramp goes down, and the guys run off on the beach. And so we figured coming in, we came in there like 11 o'clock, so we figured it was pretty much secured. because we saw the planes going over. And unfortunately, let me just set a little stage for you. There was 5,000 ships in this invasion, 4,500 landing craft, 11,000 planes involved, for different things. And there was 150,000 troops going to land on 5 beaches, which was Omaha, Utah. That was the Americans. Then there was Sword, Juneau, and Gold. With all of that going in, when we saw this, the planes going over, and you hear the bombing and everything because we're way off, and we thought it was definitely going to be a cakewalk. But when we came upon the beach, it was the most horrible thing I've ever seen. And here I am, 18 years of age.
18 years old.
18 years of age.
That. Yes.
And all of a sudden you're seeing bodies because they had barriers there, so they kept the landing craft from going all the way to the sand and going down. So what we found out basically from the wounded and all that when we got on the beach, when the planes went over to render the bunkers useless, they couldn't see the bunkers, and they said there's cloud cover. They said, just when you think you're at the beach, drop the bombs. And the bombs dropped a mile away from the bunkers, and that left it wide open, and they had machine guns that could shoot off over 150 bullets a minute. And as these poor guys came in on the early waves, they just mowed them down. When we arrived, there was bodies laying in the water, there was body parts on the beach. It was, for a young mind, see, you're used to seeing certain things when you're trained, but when you see what I saw, that triggered me into post-traumatic stress. And then all you can do, you're in survival mode. You start taking care of the wounded you got. You see guys die. You hear guys pleading with you, and you try to do your best for them. And then some guys will look at you, and it's strange. They'll look at you and say, I got wounded, but I'm going home, right, Doc? And then, because, we had red helmets, the Red Cross and a patch. And you'd look at him, and he's got a bad wound. And you say, yeah, you're going to make it. And all of a sudden you see him die, just like that. It's just, and these are guys my age.
Right.
So it was a horrible sight for me to see. And that set me on the road to post-traumatic stress.
Paula, how was this for you, being raised and knowing your dad's background and seeing the effects of this?
This is the funny thing. For 66 years, he really didn't talk about it. I mean, you couldn't get him to tell war stories. It wasn't that kind of thing at all. And I think one of the points that we need to make clear is when he said it looked like it should have been a cakewalk, well, there were these huge guns that the Germans had that were going to be taken out by the aircraft. But as he said, they couldn't see well. So they said, well, when you see the beach, count to 3, drop the bomb. Well, they ended up all going too far. So now we have this carnage, really, on the beach that wasn't supposed to be there because we were supposed to take the guns out. So what really strikes me about it is, I work with 17, 18-year-old kids in my private therapy practice, and I can't imagine a 17 or 18-year-old kid dealing with what he saw, with having to try to patch people up, assure them they're going to be okay,
right.
Hold them in your arms while they're dying. All of that was what happened to him. But he was afraid. The part of the story I think is very interesting is he trained in a hospital and they spent time in a psych ward. And it was so frightening to him that he swore he was never going to go in a psych ward again. So he was afraid if he told people about his flashbacks or the things he was experiencing with his PTSD. And we all know a lot of the PTSD symptoms, sleeplessness,
right.
Sometimes anger, irritability, flashbacks, fears, phobias that come out of nowhere. He was experiencing that kind of stuff, but all we ever saw of Dad, my dad was like a walking day camp. He was fun. when he would come home every night, we'd go running out to the car, jumping all over him, Daddy, Daddy,
You
Daddy.
found Daddy in all those years.
He never let us see those wounds.
Yeah, I never even told people that I was in the Navy. If they got to talking about anything about the war, I would walk away or not get involved with it. And one other thing that was happening at Normandy, which was very bad, was where the tanks could have come in and destroyed, because they had about 30,000 mines on the beach with barbed wire. And the tanks normally could get in there, or the guys could get behind the tanks. They had a special floating device that they developed where the tank could be in, because the water was so rough. And what happened, the water would flip the floating device, and the tank went into the water. And the guys couldn't get out. If they couldn't get out, they drowned in the tanks. So very few tanks hit it, you know, on the early portion. So that caused more problems. And it was just like an absolute nightmare. Now, she mentioned the flashbacks. Now, when I was writing my book here, she asked me, I had the transcripts, and she was reading it, and she said, well, Dad, what is the flashbacks? And then I said, I don't want to talk about it. It was just horrible. And then she said, I think your readers would like to know about what your flashbacks were. Well, all guys have different flashbacks, and of course she can elaborate on it. Is that my flashbacks were that I see the invasion happening over and over again, and the men screaming, Mama, Mama. Body parts on the beach. Everything is magnified. Sure. And it really got pretty bad. And so I was self-medicating myself, you know, with that. And that's where she came in and helped me a great deal. She's the one that got me really onto seeking therapy later, because she got me, I was drinking very heavy. And my downfall was when self-medicating myself. I am with my family on Thanksgiving, and if I went to your house, if you invited me, I'd never just bring a bottle of wine. I'd bring a gallon of wine or a magnum of champagne, so I wouldn't run out, so I could keep drinking. So that's what I was doing. And my downfall was when they served the Thanksgiving dinner, with all my family there, I passed out with my face in the plate, and they wanted to have an intervention. So you can pick up from there if you want.
But Paula, then he has you, who you've dedicated your life to helping and being a part of this now. That not only have you helped your father, you guys are helping so many veterans moving forward. What an incredible blessing from such tragedy.
Well, that's the best thing that can come out of tragedy, isn't it? I mean, if somehow service to others or blessing for other people comes, and I think that's one of the main things that Dad is about right now, and why he does all the speaking engagements and stuff he does, because he realizes he lost 66 years. I mean, he had life and he had a quality of life, but it could have been so much richer. Fortunately for my dad, even though he did drink, but he wasn't a negative, angry, like, you know, what happens to some people, the irritability and the phobia becomes so bad that they can hardly be around people. But in his case, he became a comedian, and so humor has always been a part of him. To the point where if you sit my mother down and say, what's it been like, she'll say, pretty rough. She's heard the same jokes 10,000 times, but she always laughs. But I think the humor saved him because it kept him positive. And Dad is an energetic, more positive kind of guy. But I've worked with a lot of people who, in fact, when I was doing my internship, the first person I worked with told me that one day he was on the streets of Hanoi, and the next day he was on the streets of San Francisco. Wow. No debrief, no counseling, no help with making that transition. And World War II veterans, they had they've all had a tough go until recent times, because they came home as heroes. So you were supposed to act like everything was great. You're
Right.
home now. You can be with your woman on. But what about the nightmares that live in your mind? You know, what do you do with those? There was nobody addressing that back then.
So powerful to share this story now all these years later, and I just feel so honored that we had the chance to hear from you and really hear your perspective and see your heart, and then also know that even all these years later there was a way for you to start getting through this and living a different way and getting help and healing, which is just so powerful, and you can help so many people. And I hope, now I know that you're getting ready to leave here in about a week. Are you ready? You're going back to Normandy.
Right. And just as I say, mixed emotions really come into it because I don't know what I'm going to do. Somebody asked me, what would you do when you get to Normandy? I said, I will cry. I know that. I will salute them. And then I will make up my mind definitely to keep speaking as long as God gives me the strength to honor them and not let them be forgotten. Because when I see the graves, I see all those young men there that hit the beaches are the ones that died. And then those that never could ever come home and all that. So I remember thinking, I had to speak at some group, and it was I was talking about teamwork, and that was a great team, that Normandy invasion, the way it was all planned. And then somebody was saying, well, what were you? I said, I was a corpsman, first class, and they said, so what is that? I said, it was almost like a private, or I was a corporal, like, of the Army, but only this is Navy. And I said, a lot of guys doing this thought, are they low man on the totem pole? Are they important? And yes, every one of them was important. And then I felt, I'm making the invasion there, and here I am. I was not a doctor or an officer or anything. I was just there to do a job. But I was telling this group I was speaking to that you've always got to think of yourself as important, no matter what job you're doing. Because when I hit the beach, and I felt low man on the totem pole, but I was doing a job. When I approached that wounded man, and he's looking at me with the pleading eyes, and he's saying, Doc, help me, help me. I became the most important man in his life at that moment.
Yes, you did.
And I tell people, don't ever think your job is not important, because you're on the chain of a winning team, and that's the way you should always think.
Well, Jack, I really truly believe I speak on behalf of all of our viewers and everyone here that the only words that can be said right now is thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story today. Thank you for your service.
Yes.
Thank you for your bravery. And thank you for being that most important person to every person there that you were with that day. Thank you for all that you've done in all of your service. Thank you, Paula, so much for sharing this with us today.
Thank you.
Good.
May we never forget. We'll be right back.
What's important to us is that we attract the right people that are going to make us better once they get here. The home buying experience is on time, every time, and we never fail our clients. We help develop originators to become more relevant, more competitive, and more impactful for their clients out over the future.
We had one goal in mind: create the very best mortgage company in the nation while maintaining our core values and our commitment to serving others.
Synergy One has emerged as the lender of choice for top producing loan officers across the country. If you're interested in taking your business to the next level, please contact us today.
We expect to bring great things to the consumers across the country as they evolve in the mortgage process with us.
Well, here on Veterans One, we love to talk about empowering VA home ownership. And so today we have brought in the expert in this. Not only is she a dynamo, completely experienced, well-known and accomplished real estate agent, she's also a veteran herself in both the Army and Navy. So excited to introduce to you Ms. Gerri-Lynn.
Hi.
Hi there, great to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
I'm excited our viewers get to hear from you. You're a friend of mine, so this is fun, but you are such a known expert, and I would love, first of all, for you to touch a little bit on your backstory. You served in 2 branches and used the VA loan yourself. Why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
I served in the Army for 5 years, and then I served in the Navy for 4.5 years. And when I was in the Army, I was stationed at Fort Huachuca, Arizona, and I was a single parent, and nobody would rent to me because it was the 80s, and I was a single parent. And
Isn't that mind-boggling?
I know.
It's ridiculous.
And I guess they thought that, a toddler would crimp the swing and single scene at the apartment complexes.
I was going to run the barbecues.
Go
right?
figure. So, against family advice, I used my VA loan and purchased a condo.
Wow. There's so many complexities there that I hope we've evolved from. First of all, the fact that you couldn't get rent into. Second of all, that you were actually being advised not to use your VA loan.
Exactly. And when I actually left that duty station and went on to my next one, I couldn't sell the condo for what I paid for it. So I turned it into a rental property. Because VA loans is the intent to live there. Well, I fulfilled that. I was assigned there. I lived there.
Yeah.
Now I used it as a rental property. And years later, sold it with somebody else basically paying my mortgage and had it free and clear.
That was the smartest thing you did at that
It
time.
was.
I mean, that's huge. Besides serving, of course, being a mom and all the other things you were doing, you were pretty savvy already.
Well, and that's what I kind of look at the VA loan is OPM, other people's money.
Right.
And that's no money down. And, and I've had clients that I've worked with, and they've used their VA loans. And I said to them, years from now, you're going to call me and say, thank you. This was the smartest thing I did. When they can buy a place for no money down, and then their BHA, their housing allowance, equals what their mortgage payment is. I mean, come on, this is smart use of money.
And you've seen this over and over again. You've been in real estate for
19 years.
Yes, quite some time, right? So you've watched this come around full circle. And I want to go in a little bit on the misconceptions. And I can't believe that even today we're still talking about these things. But what is your obstacle out there that you still see with the VA loan, with sellers, with the real estate community? What takes place?
Actually, I've seen 2 obstacles, and one just happened. I just thought of it in this last deal I closed. So, client is a retired Navy captain. They own a home in another neighborhood, and they're going to remodel it, so it's going to be inhabitable for about a year. So they had paid off their VA loan on that home and refinanced, and we're going to use their VA loan to buy a 3-bedroom condo in Cardiff by the Sea for $6 something.
Okay.
Still within the VA guidelines of $690. The underwriters were giving them a hard time and said, well, you shouldn't be allowed to use your VA loan because you already live in an affluent community.
I'm
mind-boggling.
Where is that in the guidelines?
Exactly. And it's like, I'm sorry, this guy served in Iraq. He's a physician. He did his 20-something years. Why can't he use his VA loan?
Why can't he keep using it over and over again?
So the good news is that it got closed, and they now have this home that they're going to be living in, for a year or so while their home is being remodeled.
Oh my
or actually being demolished and built.
Wow. What's another thing that you see?
Agents at the other end that have no experience with VA loans just make it's mind-boggling. It's like, oh no, I don't want to accept it. So I always.
Why?
It's interesting because when we had the financial crisis several years ago, the VA loans were not the cause of that.
Exactly.
Because the people, when you think about it, the people in the military, they have this code of honor and ethics and integrity. So they're going to pay their bills.
Right.
I have a rental property right now, and I would rent to a military person time and time again because I know their rent's going to get paid.
Right.
And they know that if it doesn't get paid, they know what to do, So, just a phone call to the commanding officer.
So to all of our viewers out there, especially the real estate community, stop doing this.
Stop.
Stop.
It is just mind-boggling. And it's interesting because I have a listing in Imperial Beach that is a Navy kid sorry, didn't mean to insult him.
He's a young man.
He's as old as my son, so he's like a kid.
They're all kids to us. I have adult
You know,
sons too, so I say
do,
that.
and that's, you know, and I love working with my young military people. It's because I treat them like they're my own children.
Right.
And it's not meant to be a snide comment. It's just loving. You know, I want to take care of these people. These people take
Right.
care of us. I want to take care of them.
That's why you're the best.
And so here he is. So he's active duty, and now an active duty couple came in with a VA loan to buy his house, and it's like,
oh, that's
let's
great.
just get this done.
See, this doesn't have to be that hard.
No, it's not. It's not. You know, and one of the things that I always write in my contracts when I'm doing a VA loan is no cost to the seller. It's not going to cost the seller any extra money. I think that's what they have, this misconception that the seller is going to have to pay for things,
But
and
what
it doesn't
about
have
the
to be.
appraisal? Isn't that what we always hear?
It's the same appraisers. It's the same appraisers. So this house in IB, Imperial Beach, it actually, because I represent the seller, I don't know what the appraisal actually came in, but I spoke to the lender yesterday, and he said, yeah, it looks like it actually came in a little bit higher.
Wow.
So
we need to get the word out more to the real estate community. It's got to stop. We need to accept those offers. We need to help our veterans get into homes. You're such a perfect example, which is why you're so loved and such an expert out there for us, especially in the San Diego real estate community. Just tell us briefly a little bit more about that listing. We may have a buyer watching.
Oh, I've got a great listing. It's in Imperial Beach, 1650 Seacoast Drive, Unit A, and it's listed at $675, so it meets your VA price point of $690 with no money down, and it's on the beach. And it has 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, about 806 square feet. It faces the estuary, and then your backyard, you just walk a couple of steps and you're at the Pacific Ocean, so you can hike the estuary or you can surf in the backyard. It's a great piece of property, and it would be a great starter home.
Oh, it's perfect. And a military or veteran can buy it. Active duty, veteran, it's ready to go.
Absolutely. And
Awesome.
you know, and it'd be one that you'd want to hang on to for a while and come back and retire there as your vacation home.
Exactly. I'll take it.
Okay. Let's write it up.
Gerri-Lynn, you're such an expert and you're such a delight, and I hope that our viewers love you as much as I do and got to really see your heart and passion. And thank you for all of your service.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
Appreciate you
My
being an
pleasure.
expert. Will you come back on another time and talk about this some more?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Look forward to that.
Okay.
We'll be right back with more Veterans One.
What's important to us is that we attract the right people that are going to make us better once they get here. The home buying experience is on time, every time, and we never fail our clients. We help develop originators to become more relevant, more competitive, and more impactful for their clients out over the future.
We had one goal in mind: create the very best mortgage company in the nation while maintaining our core values and our commitment to serving others.
Synergy One has emerged as the lender of choice for top producing loan officers across the country. If you're interested in taking your business to the next level, please contact us today.
We expect to bring great things to the consumers across the country as they evolve in the mortgage process with us.
I love the fact that I have the honor of being the host here of Veterans One TV. But for those of you who don't know my background a little bit, I've also been a performer, have worked with the veteran and military community for a lot of years. I've been a spokesperson for the veterans and also founded my own nonprofit, Voice for Heroes. The whole reason being is that there are so many amazing stories out there. We're supposed to tell their story. And we have an incredible opportunity here at Veterans One TV, as you have just seen, to tell the story, share amazing stories, empower, get the word out there. Because the one thing I've noticed with the veteran and military community, they don't just voluntarily start sharing their stories, but when you ask, if you're in a safe environment, they will open up. And I bet there are a lot of amazing stories out there from our veterans, from wars before, from current wars, who are still serving our current active duty, that probably would love to share their story. So we have a challenge for you here with Veterans One TV right now. I want you to help us tell their story. I bet you know a uncle, a cousin, a neighbor, a brother, somebody who's serving now, somebody who served before, someone you know that you could sit down with even with your phone and just say, hey, tell me your story. Give us a little bit, share where you've been, what you've done, tell us who you are. And we are asking you to take that story, it can just be a couple minutes, and post it on your social media. Make sure it's public so we can see it, and hashtag Veterans1TV so that we can see it. We want to hear those empowering stories, and then we're going to share some of those. We're going to go through them all. We're going to share these stories that you bring to us, and I bet there's opportunity that you're going to see some of these right here in studio with us as we then take this to the show. We want to make this a challenge, that everybody reaches out and start gathering those stories. Let's hear more. Let's find out what really has taken place in the heart of a veteran, the life of a veteran, and what's going on right now with our active duty. Video somebody, post it, hashtag Veterans1TV, and we look forward to hearing your story. Thank you. This is truly an episode that I will never forget. What an incredible time. I feel changed forever. I hope that you do too. You want to make sure and stay tuned for what's ahead, because clearly we have some very special guests that come in here to Veterans One. We are just getting started with the incredible journey of this amazing show. Thank you so much to Synergy One Lending, our sponsor that allows us to do this. And I'm Amy Scruggs, your host. I'll see you next time on Veterans One.